Congrats to Virginia. Really, really good ball club. One of the better teams we faced all year. Kind of hate to have the ninth inning go the way it went. We played pretty dang clean all year long and played games tight. It was a really good ball game until that point. But I'm proud of my guys. I got a tough, gritty group. And that's all I got.
Okay, we'll start in the front, work our way back. Questions for David first on the end.
David, Coach mentioned defensively, it seemed like the game was so tight, maybe a big mistake was going to happen. But when the wheels started kind of coming off there in the ninth, what, if anything, could you do to kind of stop it?
Sometimes it's baseball, do what you can, stay calm, keep yourself composed, but ultimately things like that are going to happen. It doesn't change what our season was like or how we are as a team. Just it's baseball.
David, after kind of the disappointing season last year, I know it was important for you guys to have this opportunity to play in postseason, and I know you had your close losses and some frustrating moments, but some big ones as well. How did you kind of assess your season with your teammates and even individually for yourself?
I love all these guys. They all work their butt off every day to get to where we've gotten. We played the toughest schedule probably in the country, and I love every one of them.
Right.
Yeah, David, what made Louisville tough today, especially as the game and night got along?
You pitched really well. You did good stuff. We had a plan, and you pitched well. Run into guys like that sometimes. So.
Shotgun, did you have a question? Okay. In the back.
David, what did you think of Pico tonight?
I thought he did really well. Competed his butt off. Pitched a great game.
Looking at the pitchers this year and playing behind those guys and seeing the growth that they've made under Justin Parker and individually for those players, what did you think of how far they came from last year to this year?
Yeah, it was awesome. Parker did a great job. He had them doing stuff every day to get better, like we all did. We'll be back.
Yeah, David, Preston with Saber.com. Just your impression over 2 games against Virginia. How did you think their pitchers were, and kind of did it match up with what you saw coming into it?
Yeah, they're a great team. Congrats to them. They played very well, and hope they do well.
Just talked a lot about last year, what you felt like you could learn from last season to take into this year. What do you feel like y'all were able to learn from this year and get in this postseason experience for guys to take into the future?
Right now it's a little hard to think about, but I'm sure in a few weeks when we get going again, we'll all look back on it and take away something from it. It's definitely a great experience and one that we want to come back and do again. So.
Anything else for David? Right.
David, and obviously you got a decision to make, I think, in a few weeks. Have you thought about that, or are you just kind of focused on the season?
Not worried about that right now.
All right. David, thank you. You can go back to your sports information director if you'd like. We'll start with questions for Coach up front.
Coach, the ninth inning you mentioned, it's a 3-2 ball game, and you got heart of the order coming up, and it kind of wheels come off there. Nate's down there kind of getting loose, and as things begin to unravel, what was the thought process, I guess, the pitching decisions and things like that?
Well, we were trying to go left on left with TD. And then the thing with Nate is he's, dirty innings for him, a guy who hasn't been out there and warmed up like that much all year. He's probably done it once, and every time we've given him a clean inning and plenty of time to warm up. That's probably more the decision there. To start an inning, we kind of felt like he was the start inning guy and not the middle inning.
Greg?
Yeah, Chris, what was your scouting report, Jay, going into the game, and what you think of the way he pitched his walks around down tonight?
Well, yeah, he commanded the ball tonight. He hadn't commanded that way all year, and so you got to tip your hat to him. He threw a slider for strikes all night long, and we got on him a little bit early and had some opportunities, and we just didn't take advantage of them. And you tip your hat to him. He made some pitches in those big moments. I think with the 5th and the 6th, we had leadoff guy at second base, and we don't move him. We got to do a better job on our side.
Preston?
Yeah, Chris, when he gets the pick off there at second, or they throw the guy out at second, just kind of how big is that momentum-wise for you guys?
Well, I thought it was huge. Because the inning before we left a guy at second base too. So had a couple opportunities there in a tight ball game to make something happen. That game was tit for tat for 8.5 innings. I mean, it was as good a ball game as you could be a part of, and those little moments, kept the momentum in their dugout.
Guys get back to the postseason this year after a lot of those veteran guys didn't get the chance to do that last couple of years. Just what did you see from your team, whether it be in the off season, throughout the season, to their motivation to get back to this stage, and what do you feel like they were able to learn from being here?
It was just a gritty group, and I think the experience of, I think you see it this week, the experience of last week helped some of our guys this week, and when you have that in your clubhouse and you've experienced it, it's easier, the next year, and you obviously have to have a good team, but you need that experience in there, and I thought that, this little ride the last couple of weeks has been really good for our clubhouse, and obviously we'll lose some guys, but we'll have a lot of guys back, and looking forward to the future.
Back left.
Chris, what does this year's group mean to you?
Man, it's a special group. I mean, it's a really successful team, but it's been a really tough ride. It's some heartbreaking losses, a really tough first week of the season, and then to climb back and as we played our SEC schedule, it's probably one of, like I think David said, one of the hardest schedules in the country. Man, we had to fight and fight through some tough games, and I give those kids a lot of credit because and our coaching staff, the whole coaching staff of pushing these guys and fighting with these guys.
Shotgun in up front.
Chris, where do you see the program at right now? What's the most important step you can take going forward?
Well, obviously it's recruiting, but I'm happy where we're at. Unfortunately you lose in the championship game of a regional, but now we're back, kind of on the national stage, and the recruiting's such a big piece, and it is. There's a portal season about to happen on Monday, tomorrow morning, and as we're recruiting, we have a really good high school group that's going to be going into the draft, and some of these guys in our clubhouse going into the draft. So right now, I think every team in the country feels like their teams are so liquid because of where we're at in the NCAA and everything. So I think there's a big month ahead of us.
Obviously, decisions looming for some of the key guys, but what have Hunter and Dakota and David, guys like that have been leaders, meant to you these past couple of years, and especially this year?
Yeah, they've been great, and they've had to learn. I have a group of sophomore eligible guys, so they haven't had an opportunity to play as much, as some of your older guys. Sometimes you get in your program, but they've done a great job. They work hard, they play hard. I think they set the example just from a daily, just how they go out and do their business.
When you and your staff are kind of looking at your roster and looking at some of the things that you want to improve next year, what are some things when you're talking about the portal or whatever that you think are the most important things for your team to get back to the spot?
Well, I think we need a little more depth offensively. I think that was one of the big areas, and then you need frontline pitching, and I think we had that this year, but you got to go back out and find more frontline pitching every year. I think that's a big key. But I think depth of lineup. I mean, offensively, we just at times we struggled. At times we're really good, but just having some more pieces.
Coach, back portal recruiting, the last couple of years, you've been a team that wasn't in the postseason, and there were some guys that may have passed on you for that. But now that you kind of righted the ship a little bit, as you mentioned, kind of back on the national stage, do you expect that to translate to maybe some portal wins this year that maybe you wouldn't have had the last 2 years?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I mean, we're already experiencing as we're talking to kids and the graduates and the other ones that went in already. I feel like we're in a lot better spot. So you got to win all phases of recruiting: the draft, the high school kid, the portal kid, keeping your own team and keeping your team together. It's just a different world, different type of recruiting now that we're involved with.
Talk about wanting to build, depth offensively. I guess how do you kind of sell that, in the portal when a lot of guys want to be the 3-hole and the starter? I guess how do you kind of sell, opportunities to build depth and have guys that maybe won't have as much playing time but have experience and talent level to play?
And just show them the dude and the facilities and the history and the program and the coaches. It's very attractive to a lot of those kids out there. And yes, there's some kids that everybody wants to hit the 3-hole, but I think as you go through and you just played a great offense, that their 9 holes is, I think the first night we played them was hitting 400. So you can hit in all parts of the lineup and get a chance to play and move on and play professionally.
Coach, can it be overstated just how important it was to get back to postseason?
Oh, yeah.
Win some games and move or win some games here. Just those recruiting.
And we play good in the SEC too. I think that was a big piece for us, is to put ourselves back, finishing 5th in the SEC, especially the way we started, was I think was a huge piece. Playing good in the tournament, getting here, I think those are big pieces, building blocks that we can build on.
Coach, a lot of talk about RPI and things like that. Will that impact maybe your non-conference schedule a little bit next year? I know you guys are thinking about
I mean, not really. I don't live in, the key is you have to win. The reason our RPI was probably a couple short of hosting for what they say is because we lost those games. There are teams in our leagues that finish lower than us that they just won their games in their RPI and they were fine. But when you lose those games, this is the problem. We lost 4 of our first 8. Those 4 of our first 8 really put us in a tough spot on the RPI. And we're a national seed if we take care of business in those games.
Anything else for Coach?